On behalf of Arasu Polytechnic College, I welcome our resource person, Mr. P. Dandaidabani sir. Welcome, sir. Now I am going to introduce our resource person. He is working as a production manager in Formo Plastics Private Limited in Chennai, and he has completed his BE in Bharathidasan University in 2002, having more than 15 years of experience in industrial field, leading production planning, and quality control department. And he tie up with international companies who are making electromechanical systems products like HV, MV panels, and HV panels. And now I hand over this session to our resource person. We are eagerly waiting for your here valuable presentation, sir. Please, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, thank you very much for your kind words, and it's really a honor for me for the opportunity given by the RSO Polytechnic College to give a presentation in the topics of IoT applications in smart grid. So, thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Let me make my presentation. Just, just Ma'am, is it visible, ma'am? Hello?
Visible, sir.
Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Welcome, everybody. This presentation is going to give you an idea about the smart grid and the IoT and the applications of IoT. Majorly, I covered the AMI and the smart metering and the little bit of asset management system and the security issues in this IoT based smart grid and the recent challenges what we faced in this smart grid. So this will give you an overall idea. Not I will not cover too much into technical like protocol and other stuff. So if you have any doubt, you just make a note of it. In the end of the session, before closing the session, we have a QA session. During that time, you can ask your questions. So meantime, I request you to follow my presentation. So this presentation consists of a little bit of introduction about the smart grid and what all the smart grid projects happened in India, and a small introduction about IoT and the applications of IoT in smart grid and the security issues and challenges. So now let us see the recent Indian power trends. So this is the report prepared by Niti Aayog. What would be our electricity generation up to the year of 2047? So this consists of fossil fuel based electricity like coal and other stuff, and hydro nuclear, renewable based energy, renewable based electricity like solar, wind, and other form of renewable based electricity. And similarly, what would be the share of renewables? So you can see the trend. So now it is keep on increasing, which means our electricity generation is much more required compared with now in 2047. So this is the demand. So demand is also increasing from uh, 4,927 terawatt to 18,000, which is almost 300% in 2047. So the demand would be the buildings, industries, transport, of course, vehicles, telecom, cooking, and remaining stuff. So why I put a separate electricity demand for EV? So EV is going to be the one of the major power consumer in India in near future. So if you see the trend, so especially when you see the cars, taxis, buses, and other 2 or 3 watt equipment. So there is a separate demand which is not used by our industries or other stuff. This is purely used by electrical vehicles. So this is the installation capacity of renewable energy sources. So this is the all India installed capacity, and this is the projected capacity. So you can see the difference. So far we have achieved almost around 300 or 325 gigawatt of installed capacity, and what we are going to achieve in 2022, that is within 1 year, 535 gigawatt of renewable energy sources. So below you can see the what are all the major contributors of that. So now you can see the cumulative installed power capacity. Still, coal-based power plants are having a major role in it. And second would be the renewable energy sources, and the nuclear will also play a little bit of part, and diesel is also play a very little bit of part. And when you see this, there is a waste to power. So as far as the government data says, it was 4%, but unofficial data it would be 5 to 10% of power will be wasted in India, and in some areas it would be 15 to 20%. So which is a real huge amount of power we are wasting in India. So next question is, so far we have come across a traditional power grid, and in 21st century there will be a huge change in traditional grid. So what are the changes? So the changes would be, there will be no centralized generation. It would become a distributed generation. And second would be investment in transmission versus storage energy. The third would be power flow monitor and controlled LV grid up to end customers, and customers become prosumers, and EV and VPs are short-term balancing to the grid. And last one would be smart metering and IEDs. That is, so far grids are the traditional grid. They are only transmitting powers. We don't know about what is happening inside it. That does not mean that we did not know anything at all. We know little bit of data, but now we need more data. So this is the traditional power grid, as you know, everybody. So there is a set of power producing plant like nuclear, hydro, coal, or like solar, wind, and other things. And in between there is a transmission grid, and at the end there is a distribution grid. So which means the power is being produced in one area. During by using the transmission grid, we are transferred that power from one area to another area, that is a distribution area. So this is a traditional grid we are using for the past 50-60 years. Now where is the concept of smart grid come in between? Why? So why we need to have a smart grid instead of a traditional grid? Now earlier there is a boundary. So there is a boundary in the sense the electrical power are being produced in remote areas, and it is used by means of transmission line and stuff to the distribution. Now it is not going to be the. Now there are a lot of localized power producing, something like solar based and windmill and other stuff. Now the power production is going to be decentralized. So our grid would be in such a way that it would incorporate the localized generation into the grid. Second one is the consumer becomes prosumers. So what is the term prosumer? The prosumer is the consumer is also producing the power and he is using it, and he is also selling the power to the power grid. So that is one of the major part. And second one would be the distribution. Now we are not invest in a huge money to the transmission lines. Instead of, there is a concept called energy storage technology, which is a new technology which is emerging in last 10 years. That is, we can store energy in localized areas, so that whenever we have excess power, we can store that energy, and whenever we have a requirement, we can use that. So this is also a new concept. And second one, and the fourth one is the purchasing of power. It is moving from the volumetric to the transactive tariff. Earlier it was earlier we are buying power in a huge way, like a bulk 2 megawatt, 3 megawatt, 5 megawatt. Now it is not in that way. Now whatever we are consuming, we are buying that much power only. So the demand is fluctuating. So we need a certain data so that we can fix our demand. So this is also one of the reasons. So another one is merit order dispatch. That is, now it is going to be efficient and environmentally friendly based dispatch. And another one is solar PV, because now solar PV has been integrated with our grid, so which has its own problems in the traditional grid. So another one is larger fleet of electrical vehicles, because now we are moving from the fossil fuel based vehicle into the EV vehicles. It has its own problem, and similarly it has its own demand. So all these parameters actually pushed us towards the smart grid. So what are the drivers for the smart grid? For utilities, we need to reduce the transmission and the distribution losses, because as I earlier said, we have around 10 to 20% of the losses in our Indian traditional grid. So if you take if you generate 100 megawatt of power, we lose 20% of roughly 15 to 20% of that power in the wastages. Another one is peak load management. So by using the smart grid, we can easily identify when we have a peak load, when we have a non-peak load, all this stuff from the live data. Another one is reduction of power purchase cost. Earlier, as I said earlier, the power was produced in the remote areas. Now the power is being produced in the localized environment, and similarly power can be stored in a storage mechanism and we can sell it. So by incorporating all these things, the power cost will be reduced. Of course, better asset management and increased visibility. Self-healing grid in the sense, if there is any problem, there will be no blackouts. So based on the parameters, the grid itself, it will be self-healed. The major one is renewable integration. That is the one of the major part, because now wherever you go, you can see the green power stuff in the markets. So now the government is also give more encourage to the solar, wind, and renewable source of energy, so that we can reduce the emission of carbon. And for the regulators from the government and other stuff, they have what they need is satisfied customers, and of course financially sound utilities, system upgrade and modernization, and reduction of emission intensity. So what as a customer we need? So what we need is, first of all, we need to access the electricity. There will be no doubt about it. And second one is the improved reliability of supply to all customers. That is, there will be no power outage, and whenever we need power, it should be available. And similarly, it should be available in the lower cost. And the third one will be quality of supply. That means the power should be supplied in a described parameters within the specification of voltage. There will be no fluctuations, all this stuff. And another one is user friendly and transparent interface with the utilities. That means so far there will be a power, it is coming to the utility, but there will be no feedback to the utilities. Now we need to give some feedback to the utility so that they can plan in a better way, so that there will be no problem for them. And the increased choice of consumers, including green power. So as I said earlier, now the green power is going to be play a major role. So now the consumer has, like I said, consumer has more choices from where uh, they can buy the power, and of course prosumer and enablement, and option to save money from shifting loads from peak period to the off peak period. It means by having a real-time data, we can map when we have a peak load, when we have a non-peak load, so that we can give a better plan to the generating stations. So this is the smart grid. So smart grid, what is the definition of smart grid? An electrical system that uses information, two-way cyber-secure communication technologies, and computational intelligence in an integrated fashion across electricity generation, transmission, substations, distribution, and consumption to achieve a system that is clean, safe, secure, reliable, resilient, efficient, and sustainable. So this is the uh, uh, technical discussion of smart grid. So you can see the picture. So you can see the picture. So one side you can see the power plant. One is thermal power plant, hydraulic, renewable, wind generator, and another side is EV, and another side is you can see factories, homes. Uh, these people are using the power, and these people are producing the power. Sometimes the factories, homes, cities, and EVs also generating the power, and these power should be integrated with the smart grid. So when I say smart grid means how it is different from the traditional grid, we can simply say when a smart grid started to respond our queries, it becomes smart grid. That means so far there won't be so far the traditional grid, there won't be any response from customer to the producer or the discom distribution companies. Now when you have a smart grid, uh, our equipment and our equipment has started to give some response to the smart grid, that is the utility providers. So based on that real time information, they can plan better way of uh, power production, distribution, everything they can control in a better way, so that we can have a maximum efficiency in terms of generation, in terms of distribution, in terms of quality, in terms of consumption, so there won't be any blackouts, and we can say that our grid would be secure, reliable. So in India, we have a smart grid vision roadmap for India, and this is handled by Ministry of Power. So there is a separate department, and there is a smart grid task force, which was formulated a smart grid vision and roadmap for India, and which is in aligned with the Ministry of Power overarching objectives. So, what is the vision, smart grid vision for India? It is transform the Indian power sector into a secure, adaptive, sustainable, and digitally enabled ecosystem that provides reliable and quality energy for all with active participation of stakeholders. This is what earlier I said. Our smart grid would be reliable, and it will provide a quality of power, and it would be a cheaper cost, and we can controllable easily. So these part will be covered in the smart grid. So there will be a national smart grid vision in India. So they have goals, certain goals, and those goals have been approved by Government of India in 2015. So for that there would be a mission and vision, and there is a principles of institutional structure. So there is a report. Based on that report, the NSG, the Smart Grid Vision, they they installed a certain smart grid projects in India for getting data and evaluating the availability of power, and other stuff. So this is the milestone of smart grid rollout, and first phase is up to 2020, and second phase would be 25. So the first one will be SLPU, state local phase measure units. So these are all the points which will be taken care by phase one. That is, SLPMU units should be 100% made in the state level, and smart grid regulations has been made in 100%, and roadmap formulation 100%. That is in 2025, and smart grid cell and smart grid utilization, this is being done, and similarly maturity level of framework, this is also being done, and the assessment of utilities, it was completed, and AMI, advanced metering infrastructures, which was completed in 10%, and it should be 100% by 2025, and AMI rollout in all towns. Currently it was 25, and by 2025 it would be 100%. And similarly, network mapping and distribution and automation, which we are not doing it, it would be in 2025. And similarly, microgrid and renewable integration. Microgrid is a small smart grid in an area where we cannot have access of our traditional grid power. So which means it has its own source, either by they have their own energy storage area, or energy storage system, or some type of renewable, which would be catered in a village, in a remote places where the transmission of power through cables will be difficult. So similarly, the electrical vehicle. So what is the benefits of smart grid compared with the traditional grid? So first one is communication. So in traditional power grid, there will be only one-way communication, as I said earlier. Now it would be smart grid. It would be fully two-way communication with interaction. That means a smart grid started to talk with each other. That means from consumer to the service providers. Second one, power generation, it would be centralized earlier. That means we have a power generation in the traditional ways. That is in the remote locations, like something like where the coal-based or nuclear-based or hydro. Now it is not like that. Now there are various other way of generating power has been come into picture. So to give you more flexibility to us. The topology, it was radial topology, and the other one is network topology. And operation and maintenance, it was manual monitoring and periodic equipment maintenance. Now it was smart grid will be remote real-time monitoring and prognostic and these stuff I will explain during the application of IoTs. And power restoration, it will take a little bit of time in traditional power grid, and the smart grid, it won't happen because there will be a lot of case studies based on the real-time data given back from customer to the utility provider, so that they can have a contingency plan in line with the real-time data. So reliability, compared with the traditional power grid, smart grid will have a more reliability, and metering would be electromechanical, and now we have a AMI, which will give real-time data to the utility providers and the discoms. So customer participation, the traditional power grid will be almost nil, not almost, it is nil, zero. Now we have extensive interaction between the customer and the service providers. And the power quality control, like I said, traditional power grid would be less. Now we have more sensors and smart meters technologies. So by using those things, we will have a more power quality, and the renewable power source integration. The traditional, we can do that, but with little bit with more difficulties. But in smart grid, we can do it with less difficulties, and the operational cost and wastage, high in peak hour and low in peak hour, due to distributed generation and control over the power consumption. So what are the smart grid projects in India, which was completed under the guidance of National Smart Grid Mission? One was done in IIT Kanpur Smart City Pilot. The area was the smart city in IIT Kanpur campus. The project cost would be 11 crore and government of India would be 5.6 crores. So there are four projects, and one in Haryana and another one in Mysore and Himachal Pradesh. And now you can see the AMI, PLM, OMS, and similarly AMI, OMS, PLM, and microgrid and DG. So these are all the functionalities will be functionalities implemented in these smart grid projects, so that we can have more data from these projects, which will be used in the bigger way of implementation of smart grid in India. So what is Internet of Things? The Internet of Things, the definition is the interconnection via the internet of computing devices embedded in everyday objects, enabling them to send and receive data, which means our equipment started to speak in the sense not in speech. It started to give response, or it started to send data. That is actually called the Internet of Things. That means our normal equipment, like our household equipments like fridge, lamps, our fans, our air conditioner, these things started to send real-time data to the utility providers, or uh, or uh, or to the discoms. These things are called Internet of Things. So what is Internet of Things? It is smart sensors to communicate. It means, as I said earlier, we need to talk. It is started to talk to each other, and these are connected to cloud through a gateway router, so that the data should be stored in a cloud computer, so that we can process it later, and the data generated by sensors can grow huge, so that there are a lot of data started to coming out of these equipments, which is smart, so that we can have a real-time picture of what we are using, how much power we are consuming, when we have a peak load, when we have a light load, all this stuff. And similarly, big data issues. And when you use big data or cloud in processing these huge amount of data, so that we can have a real-time picture of what is happening in our equipments. So cloud is one technology which is a IoT facilitator, and cloud is not the only one. There are other technologies also available, which will be used based on our requirement. So this is a typical picture of IoT in smart grid. That is, when you see these areas, so these are all the equipments which are smart, and there are gateway, which is data collected. That means the data from the equipment will be passed to the data collection center, and the data are passed to the data processing analysis, and these data are processed into the useful information, and then the information will be passed to the decision making authorities, which means the discoms or the utilities. So this is the basic level of IoT in smart grid. So this is the flow diagram. Like I said, there is a battery or supply, there is a sensing element, and there is a processing unit, there is a communication, and there is a APIs and gateway and cloud. So you can combine this diagram with the earlier one, you can have a better picture. So this is the smart grid from the IoT point of view, where you can see the transmission, generation, distribution, and usage. Here you can see the ecosystem, big data, cloud, IoT, and services. And these are all the technology in the IoT things. That means from the services, by using the IoT, the data will be transferred to cloud. Then the cloud will transfer the data to the big data processor. Then it will go to the ecosystem. So this is the uh, IoT point of view. This is again a very basic level of IoT point of view of smart grid. So this is the functional cloud computing service cluster diagrams where you can have a information storage. So when you have a smart meters in homes, the smart meter started to give information to the information storage. Then again, the information will be sent to the user services. So from the user services, they will process the data and they will get real-time ideas so that they can communicate with the generation and transmission. So this is a this is an advancement from a traditional way of producing power and the distributing power. So this is the concept model of IoT in smart grid. That means so you can have a centralized operations here, and there is a service provider, and there are markets, and similarly there is a bulk generation, transmission, distribution, and customers. So when you see the picture, you can see that all the operations are interlinked with each other. There is no an isolated operation. There will be no single line. So everything will be interconnected. That means everybody can have data from other people so that they can perform in a very better way. Like earlier in earlier days, there won't be any interconnection between the markets or service providers or the bulk generation or the customer and other stuff. So what will happen is at the time we have a contingency plan based on the experience or based on the manual data. So we don't know what would be. So say example, when we have a contingency of 100 case scenarios, if 101 happened, we don't have any response to that because we don't have the previous data. Now it is not like that. So now what happened is, now the equipment started to speak. They started to send data to the operation center so that we can have a better understanding of what is happening in the field, so that we can control generation, transmission, and distribution in a very better way. So what are the major applications of IoT in smart grid? First one is power generation infrastructure management, and second one is SCADA connected system for managing transmission and distribution operations, and third one is AMI, advanced meter infrastructure, and the fourth one is carbon footprint and environmental monitoring. Fifth one is smart meters. So there are other applications are also there, but I'm not covering those things. I'm just covering where I am involving, and where we have a major thing going on in India. So first one is power generation infrastructure management, which means so now all the power generation stations are being controlled by a SCADA based system. That means we have uh, more data about when the power is being produced, and the situation of the equipments, and what is the requirements and other stuff, so that by using the data we can have a better plan for distribution as well as the transmission. So the IoT, in the sense why IoT is used here is, so each and every equipment they have their own software and the smart part, so that so the health of the equipment and the operating status of the equipment, or the idle status of the equipment, every data are being transferred to the operation center. So they have the real-time data. So what is happening in the power generation equipment, they have it in the finger, so that they can plan in a real better way. So this is the SCADA connected system for managing transmission and distribution. Actually, it is when you see there is a SCADA cloud interface, and there is a SCADA client and server, and here you can have a cloud fog interface, and another one is the end customers. Actually, it's very much vital for controlling and supervising the electrical energy generation and transmission and distribution. And second one is the SCADA connected system collects data and information from grid and supervising the automation process to control and regulate the different system parameters to run the operations effectively. And when you see this cloud fog interface, so it will give more efficiency to this SCADA connected system, because when you see this N terminal devices, actually the N terminal devices consist of IoT enabled sensors, actuators, uh, appliances, which was used wireless sensor networks. And this fog interface consists of various network devices such as access points, switches, routers, to analyze and process a huge amount of data generated from the end terminal device, that is from here. So another one is cloud. Cloud is normally consist of cloud data centers, cloud storage, and gateway devices located in different geographical locations, and it also responsible for aggregating and processing all statistical data from the field. So finally the data are being processed and it will be displayed in a very useful manner in the SCADA display, so that from the data they can take a real-time decisions of generation and distribution and other stuff. So the most important of the IoT is advanced metering infrastructure, and the definition is AMI are the system that measures, collect and analyze the energy usage and communicating with metering devices such as electricity meters, gas meters, and so on. Actually, it is an architecture for programmed bidirectional communication between the consumers, smart meters, and the service providers. Actually, the objective is to deliver the real-time statistics regarding the power consumption to the service providers. And the most important, maybe it will happen in near future, that AMI will enable the consumers to make up the real-time solution based on the energy usage. That is not happening now, but it will happen in real future. And this IoT based AMI offers a boundless perspective for optimizing and managing of energy consumption via efficient smart metering consumption, and it includes various types of appliances like light, fans, switches, power, machines in industries. All those things are connected with the smart meters, which is being communicate these real-time data to the utility provider, and it has a massive prospect for power grid management, and the system is capable of gathering and acting on live statistics of consumer side and small scale power generating and utilizing providers. So now this picture will give you a functional component of advanced metering infrastructure. So this is a utility data center, and this is the application uh, of consumers. Here you can have the protocols, and similarly these are the communications. So by using this you can generate a real-time data of what is happening in the consumers. So what are the drivers and benefits of advanced metering infrastructures? One is the valuable outage detection. That is, it is something like a closed loop control system. So it will give you a feedback of what is actually happening in that equipment. And another one is the tamper and theft detection. And the one of the major problem in India is the theft of power. And by using AMI, you can easily identify where the power is going. And another one is a more accurate meter reads. And if you have a more accurate meter reads, you can have improved billing, and there won't be any problem from the customer side, and it will give you it will it will give you a better data to the customers from the to the utility side. And so similarly, the customer can receive price signals. So example, when you have automatic monitoring infrastructure in your home, so when you set certain level, that is, if you set a 500 units per month, if it cross the 500 months, you can 500 units of power, you can set an alarm, or you can set a message so that you can plan in a better way so that you can reduce your power. So this is a one. And what is the disadvantages? Yes, of course, we have a disadvantages. That is, we are giving more data of our usage to the utility providers. We don't know how they are going to use that, and similarly, they can control our equipment from the remote side. And of course, these data are being used from the unauthorized parties, even yes, which we don't know what they are going to use it, and how we are going to affect by this usage of third parties. And security risk, as I said, when we become more smartness of our equipment, which in turns that it can be accessed by the remote peoples. So these are all the AMI protocols and standards and initiatives. So ANSI 12.18 and C 12.19 were formulated for configuration, data gathering, and link layer communication to the meter. And similarly, the ANSI, NEMA, and IEEE, they adopted the standard for electronic meter product, and the standard defines a set of flexible data structures. In particular, the standard defines a table structure for utility applications. So, what are all the advantages by using smart meters in different sectors of energy grid? So, transmission and distribution sector, they have a better efficiency of load, and reduction of wastages, and development of capacitor and condenser bands, and energy load management, and reduction in energy wastage. So external stakeholders, like investors, so they can fund the smart energy grid enterprises by using this real-time data, and environment welfare. Consumer end, of course, we have a precise and well-timed billing, adequate access and information to manage our energy consumption. As I already said, we can fix our energy consumption, and if it crossed to that level, we can set an alarm so that we can monitor our usage in a very better way. So enhanced, so the energy quality would be better. So billing safety and security, reduction in recurrent billing, fast reduction of disruption, and energy stealing, and development in billing accurateness. Client services and ground maintenance, there is no handheld metering apparatus. Reduction in metering expenses, less call center transactions. That means the meters are fixed in the in the equipment itself. There is no need to have a separate person to go and measure the thing in a manual way, and everything will be handled in the remote ways. And service providers, they will give us the better quality in operative safety and security. And the decision maker, of course, they have more data so that they can plan in a very better way. which will increase the power output, quality, everything, and similarly it will reduce the cost. So before that, there is one major thing which IoT is being applied is the asset management system of smart grid. Actually, there are a lot of equipment used in smart grid uh, uh, power generation and distribution stations and the transmission stations, all these things. All the equipments are being monitored by an IoT based equipment, so that we can have the health of the equipment and the operating status of the equipment when the equipment is being in idle, and if they have any problem, or if they have any miscommunication, uh, or or they provide any wrong data, or the malfunctions of any transformers, or any equipment which is used in the power generation to the distribution. So this is also one of the major application of IoT in a smart grid. So the next one will be the security issues. So of course we have a security issues, because when you say anything smart, when that means any equipment is started to talk, or anything can be accessed by a remote. Definitely they have a security issues. One is first one is impersonation. That means an attacker can use our identity, so that they can use the power from our account, or they can do something in our consumption. Another one is eavesdropping. So as you know that they can access our data, unauthorized access of our data, so that they can use it in a problematic way in later times. So another one is data tampering. So by remotely we can they can change the data in our meters, or they can control the equipment through the remote access, so that it will behave in a different manner, so that we'll end up with a high power cost. Another one is authorization and control issues. Of course, when you use smart meters, or field deployed sensors and actuators, because when you access everything from the remote, from a centralized control system, if any unauthorized access of the control system can lead to the damage to that system, or blackouts, or anything happen, anything abnormal thing might happen to that system. And privacy, of course, now when we install smart meters, smart applications in our houses, and with the capacity of accessed from the remote, we don't know uh, what are the what are all the equipment they are fixed, or what are the software they are installed in our equipment through remote. So ultimately our privacy will be in danger, and compromising the malicious code, which means they can put a malicious code which will completely block out our entire power system. There are things happening uh, in uh, in uh, in Venezuela and other stuff, by using some malicious code. They can completely block out. So now, especially when we are in the cyber age, and this could be used by our enemy countries. Through internet, they can completely block out the entire power grid for days or weeks or months. Yes, it is possible, unless otherwise. we have a very secure power grid. So what are the challenges we have? So what are the challenges we have in Indian power sector? One is lack of sufficient radio frequency spectrum for interplay between smart grid and smart cities. Now the radio frequency spectrum is being completely controlled by Ministry of Defense. So now we have less amount of radio frequency spectrum which is being used by our telecom companies. So when you have a smart grid and smart cities, you need a more RF spectrum so that we can communicate in a much better way. And second one is the lack of successfully implemented innovative business models in power sector. Yes, of course, because still our power sector is completely dominated by the government-owned entities. Uh, Private players are recently coming into the picture, and they are not coming into the picture for the traditional one like a hydro or coal-based power plant. They are mainly in renewable in terms of volume and other stuff. Because now the private players are major role in solar and wind based power production. And of course, there is a absence of guideline for cyber security. In India, we our laws are not very stringent. So we have laws. We cannot say that we don't have laws, and we have laws, and it is not sufficient to control the utilities or the service providers if they behave in a wrong way. I would say that, and. And the most important is lack of understanding. Yes, of course, because the smart grid and these technologies are only 6 to 7 years old in India. So we need to have a more understanding of IoT, uh, because when we have more players coming into the pictures or more companies, then only the more technologies will come and play into the Indian pictures. So another one is absence of IPv6 V6 based last mile connectivity. So absence of harmonization between smart grid and smart cities from the IoT of perspectives. This is also one of the major stuff, because the grids are being controlled by the government entities, and smart grids are being made by the private companies which are using different technologies. When you say in a smart grid which is being controlled by the government entities, they are not up to the level of the latest technology. So there is a technology gap between the smart grid and there is a technology gap between the uh, government service providers and the private people. So this must be somehow made equal. And of course, the absence of interoperability in IoT devices in power sector. As I said earlier, each and every company, they have their own technologies, and this will also be a problem of using it, because once our devices are not interoperable between the manufacturers, definitely it will have a problem. So the IoT enabling framework in Indian power sector. So what are the things we did, and what are the things is yet to be done, and what are the things being done now. So the policies and regulations. So roadmaps for that is completed, and the standard and specification is completed. Data privacy is yet to start, and this is the most important one. Cyber security, funding, spectrum, harmonization. These things are being done, and regulations is yet to start. And the utility part is the innovative business models. Yes, it is being done, and the interoperability. Yes, it is also being done. Capacity being capacity building is also being done. Analytics, we don't have much smart grid in India. We have very few with the varying capacities and varying technologies. So it will take some time to get the data. Consumers, okay, yeah, prosumers is completed. 100% metering is being done. Energy efficiency completed and benefit awareness is also being created. Industry, we have a manufacturing capability. Low cost product is not being done because when you have a bulk production, then only we have a low cost product. So now it is in the initial stages. It will take a little bit time to have a low cost product, and similarly, mature IPv6 solutions will take also some time. R&D has been completed. So the Achilles heel of IoT in India, one is vendor lock-in, another one is partial vendor lock-in, another one is no vendor lock-in. So fixed equipment manufacturer. So we have very few equipment manufacturer for smart grid based testing. So what we should have is multiple meter manufacturer. It will have it will be happened in due course, and NIC manufacturer, similarly the same thing. It could be the proprietary stuff, and either the proprietary thing should be made available to all, or we have a certain standards uh, from IEC or NEMA or ANSI, so that everybody can follow. Everybody will follow the same one. The one is scalable, and scalability. It is more scalable. Lifetime cost, moderate system lifetime. So where India and how India is standing up to the challenge in power sector, the Department of Telecom. So what they have to do is they are planning to expand the existing unlicensed spectrum by allocating 20 to 12 megawatts. As I said, they will need more spectrum, and they are planning to regulate the frequency band of PLC communication, and mandated Internet Protocol V6 for all devices being deployed from December 2017, and they are going to issue regulations, which is being done as I said earlier. And Ministry of Power and Regulators, they decided to set up the Regional Energy Monitoring Center for monitoring renewable energy generation and the reliable grid. And similarly, they are going to have regulators which are becoming more receptive towards approving innovative business models, which is very much required in India, so that we have a better choices. So another one is Bureau of Indian Standard. So they issued a standard for smart meters, and similarly they are formulating standard for phasor multiple measuring units and cyber security for power systems, and similarly formulating standards for IoT and smart infrastructures. And distribution companies, they are considering standard IPv6 solutions for last mile connectivity. And industry ISGF, that is Indian Smart Grid Forum, they are considering the idea of Wi-Fi using smart meter, which means there is no physical connection between the equipment and the meter. Another one is the business model of leasing and services, so that there is no need to own that equipment. You can lease and you can do the services, and a formulated business model of revenue sharing, so that the whatever we are having a revenue as a consumer or consumer or utility service, utility provider or a power generator, the revenue will be shared among us. And of course, the industry is working closely with DOT for launching the product. So this is one of the case in the AMI. So what the challenge would be: high electricity theft. We know that, and low billing efficiency, high human errors because still we are using the electromechanical based metering, and inability to perform real-time energy accounting because of they are not smart thing, and increasing tariff because of increasing the cost. Another one is low customer satisfaction. Of course, when you have all above points, definitely we have a low customer satisfaction. So, what would be the solution for these things? So the solution would be remote reading of consumption data and events. That means we are going to install smart meters in the customers, and similarly we are planning our tariff in such a way that we can identify the peak demand and the other stuff based on the data, and capability to switch from postpaid to the prepaid, we can plan our usage in a better way, so that we can save money as well as power, and IPv6 mandated smart meters, and the introduction of low capex business model to reduce financial strain, and business, as I said, the revenue must be shared between customers, discoms, power generators, so that everybody will be happy. So, it's- yes, sir. Hello.
Participants, any queries? Any queries?
Nothing, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir,
Thank you,
for
ma'am.
giving a valuable session. And thank you so much to all the participants for your kind cooperation and patience listening. The feedback link will be sent in the chat box, and also